Morning, good afternoon, good evening. The other day, I was talking about there are three types of people in the world: the idiot, the tribesman, and the citizens. The idiot is the individual who only thinks about himself, me, myself, and I. Now, and he doesn't care about tomorrow. The tribesman is slightly better in the sense that he broadens his outlook to include his immediate friends, the tribesmen. The two individuals do not care about the truth, do not care about reality, all they care about is themselves. One of the problems one has with these people, with this mentality, is that when they get into power, they become dictators, tyrants. The citizen is somebody who realizes that in this world, you'll get on better if you learn to cooperate. They respect others, they treat others, in fact, as they would want themselves to be treated. This is at the heart of rule of law. When you reach that level, you realize that you cannot go through life trying to dominate other people, because they will only be trying to dominate you. And so, if we are forever having this rat race of who is going to dominate who, even if you manage to dominate somebody today, you're always on the lookout of them fighting back. But somebody who is a citizen, who appreciates that in this world you get on better if you learn to cooperate with others. You treat others as you'd want them to treat you. They've got the respect of the law. If given a situation, you're able to understand that the decision you come out of must be based on facts, on the truth, on reality. You accept yourself that you have got your own limitations. And when you accept that, you accept the essence of democratic accountability. And so when a citizen gets into power, they know that they are not gods. They accept the limits of their power and they don't abuse that power. Whereas if an idiot or a tribesman gets into power, they invariably become dictators. Just listen to this.
About it's weak people that all of a sudden get power. The weak people that get power and don't understand how to use it, and it puffs them up, and they think, okay, I'm God now. I'm Godzilla. I can do anything I want.
If you're a powerful person, you go through life and you've always been treated with a degree of respect, and you have a degree of respect back. But if you're the kind of person who's never been respected and you get some power, you're evil. You're evil. You literally become a psychopath. Yeah. You're evil.
There is a lot of truth in that. And when you look at Africa, that's when you realize that we have got a problem. Very few African countries have managed to have rule of law, democracy. Because most of the continent has been ruled by either idiots or tribesmen. We in Zimbabwe, we are, and we've been ruled ever since independence by tribesmen. When Mugabe got into power in 1980, his number one priority was not that every Zimbabwean should enjoy the same freedom, justice, have the same opportunities to economic prosperity as everybody else. His number one priority is that ZANU-PF must rule. ZANU-PF must consolidate its hold on power at all costs. Indeed, in 1980, as much as ZANU-PF and all the other parties to the Lancaster House signed the agreement that all operatives, freedom fighters, will be withdrawn from the field and sent to assembly points. Robert Mugabe and his friends, by the time they landed back in Zimbabwe, they had already made up their minds. They would not withdraw all their freedom fighters. Significant number of them were left in the field, and their message to the populace was that if ZANU-PF does not win the elections, the push war would continue. Some people have argued, and I think with some justification, that ZANU-PF would have been wrong to trust the British and the white Zimbabweans, Rhodesians, to hold free, fair, and credible elections. There's some truth in that. But even if we give ZANU-PF, Robert Mugabe, and company the credit of the doubt that in 1980 they could not trust the whites to hold free, fair, and credible elections. And so the threat that the Bush war would continue was justified. That cannot be a rational explanation of what happened thereafter, soon after the 1980 elections. As soon as Robert Mugabe got his feet under the desk, he set about to create the ZANU-PF de facto one-party state. 1983, Robert Mugabe launched the now infamous Kokura. The primary purpose of that was to dominate. Robert Mugabe realized that the main political challenge to his hold on power was Joshua Nkomo and his PF SAPO. And Kukurawundi, the primary purpose of the Kukurawundi was to make sure that PF SAPO is eliminated. The Kukurawundi was to pressure PF SAPO to force Joshua Nkomo and company to abandon the party and join ZANU-PF, which they ultimately did in 1987 when they signed the Unity Accords. And ever since, the country has been a de facto one-party state. Tribal domination. Mugabe was the tribesman at best. And so is Emmerson Mnangagwa. Indeed, in the rest in ZANU-PF right now. They care about nothing but to make sure that ZANU-PF, they remain in power. That is the reality that we've got to fight with. Question then is, when you've got a dictator in power, how do you wrestle power from him? Well, what we've got to accept is a dictator is not somebody who is rational. So you cannot have a rational discussion with him. And if Zimbabweans thought he could get power from ZANU-PF through free, fair, and credible elections, I think Mnangagwa has made it very clear that he does not believe in free, fair, and credible elections. The nearest time we ever got to free, fair, and credible elections was in 2008, when SADC forced ZANU-PF to implement electoral reforms, and that election that year, the much vote was said that ZANU-PF was going to lose those elections. And Mnangagwa's reaction was to stop the SEC declaring the results. This is him boasting.
2008 patakaita ma-elections pakaposa papinda Tsvangirai ndandiri election agent ya president. Ma-results abuda tiri pa-party headquarters. Vamtasa vanga vari secretary vedu administration. Vamtasa muripi ndafona. Ndiri kwarusapi. Komo gwenda kwarusapi seka ma-results achibuda kudai. Vanga aiwa zvako izvo Mnangagwa ndezvako enda kumusha. Office vanga vabisa zvinhu zvavo zvose. Watofunga kuti zani yadini yaparara. President ofona zvakamira sei? Kata ndomamira zvakaita takatodini kateda sei manje mama ndikati abvudzai baba ntaurira baba gadzirai politburo cabinet musarangarira zvimwe zvinhu gadzirai chi cabinet asi nangoda kuti muzive kuti 2008 ma-results abuda vamutasa vakatiza.
As a country we face a generational transition. Vana vesa vari kuma below 35 they are crying out for help. The country is in a mess. We know we are inheriting a mess. We know this country has been left with nothing.
I'm assuring you that starting from tomorrow, you'll see a different nation from what you have seen or read on the news about these results and everything. Where we are going ahead there, the situation will be very different. What we said to our people, they could not see with their own eyes. We're going to act as we see it fit. We're prepared to go the whole distance.
Well, as we know, Zimbabwe was to see some of its worst electoral-related violence in 2008. But it must be said here now, and we must emphasize it again and again and again, that the GNU that followed was the golden opportunity to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship. It is a great pity that the opportunity to end the dictatorship was wasted. Robert Gabriel Mugabe bribed Morgan Tsvangirai and his MDC friends, and they forgot about implementing the reforms. They failed to implement even one token reform in 5 years of the GNU. And ever since the GNU debacle, MDC, CCC have participated in flawed elections to give ZANU-PF legitimacy. And so our opportunity to end the dictatorship has been wasted. The opposition and the people of Zimbabwe have risked lives, limbs, and livelihoods to elect the opposition into power, only for them to sell out. The people themselves have had a weakness. They have failed to see the opposition for what they are. And this has only worked in ZANU-PF's favor. It must be said that ZANU-PF has rigged elections for the last 44 years, but the last 24 years of which was with the connivance of the opposition. Here is a favorite clip where the BBC showed that our friend Nelson Chamisa is a lie. Something that many ordinary Zimbabweans out there, even now with the benefit of hindsight, still refuse to acknowledge.
Ende patakasangana na Trump akatibvunza navakomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
Serious questions were raised about your behaviour in Washington, D.C. You did see some senior people on Capitol Hill, some Congress people, but you also claimed that you'd seen Donald Trump. You claimed you had a conversation with him in which you said he asked you how much you needed to move the country forward. You told him $15 billion, and he said to you that he would provide the money if you won the election. That was not true, was it?
Sangana na Trump akatibvunza navakomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
It was not true that you'd seen Donald Trump and that Donald Trump indicated to you that he would provide, if you won the election, $15 billion.
All those statements were said by other people, not what I said.
Akasangana na Trump akatibvunza navakomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
Well, no, because there is a video which shows you at a rally in January back home in Zimbabwe saying that Donald Trump had pretty much promised you $15 billion. To be clear, because some people in Zimbabwe are still confused, you're now telling me you did not meet Donald Trump.
We did not.
The truth of the matter is, we have had many golden opportunities to end this ZANU-PF dictatorship. and we have wasted them. What is the way forward from where we are now? Yes, the GNU was a golden opportunity and it was wasted. It's water under the bridge. I totally agree. But to move forward, we've got to understand the past. We've got to understand that the opposition is no longer fighting in the ordinary people's corner. This is a reality that, unfortunately, millions of opposition supporters have failed to understand. Last year's elections, for instance, they were warned those election processes were flawed and nothing of value could be achieved from those elections. And yet, they went ahead and participated because they believed Chamisa's lie that he had plugged all the vote-raking loopholes. That is a fundamental weakness. So ending the dictatorship now is a lot more complex than it need be, but it's not impossible. Zimbabwe is going to hold elections in 2028. I think it is clear that ZANU-PF will not implement any meaningful reforms. ZANU-PF will never reform itself out of office. The opposition that is there now will never force ZANU-PF to implement any meaningful reforms. So we can be certain ZANU-PF will be going in 2028 elections with no reforms implemented. We can also be certain that the opposition will participate in those flawed elections out of greed. We know the opposition will con their supporters to participate in those flawed elections. There lies our opportunity. We must stop the naive and ignorant electorate being conned into believing there's anything to be achieved by participating in these flawed elections. If the opposition, if the ordinary Zimbabweans had not participated in last year's elections, in their millions, nearly 2 million voted for Chamisa. I believe SAD would not only have condemned those elections as flawed and illegal, they would have gone one step further and denied ZANU-PF political legitimacy, as they did in 2008. So the challenge, how do we wrestle power from a dictator? We know Mnangagwa is a dictator. He is at best a tribesman. He is not a citizen at all. We can wrestle power from the dictator by making sure that Mnangagwa does not get political legitimacy, by making sure that Chamisa supporters do not participate in those flawed elections in their millions, as they've done in the past. Thank you very much. Have a good day.